What could you talk about for 30 minutes straight without any preparation? The behavior of street birds. Like literally birds, that is not a euphemism. For example, pigeons bob their heads at approximately 150 BPM, so if you watch them walk while listening to hardstyle or DNB they look like they are raving out. Also, pigeons are really stupid. You can't just give them a peanut, they pick it up, throw it down, and move on. If you want to give a pigeon a peanut you have to shell it and give them the actual nut pieces. Same with ducks, and ducks love peanuts. Corn too, but they become your insta best friend if you give them peanuts. I had one eating directly out of my hand recently and then it followed me all over the park. Super cute. Herons will never get close to you, they are too nervous. And they love garbage. All birds seem to love garbage. Most corvids will get closer and closer depending on how much they trust you. Crows are easiest to gain trust with. Then in order it seems to be jackdaws and GT, ravens and GT, magpies and GT, blue jays. Magpies seem to have really supportive family groups. The whole flock will look after the nest, for example. Pretty neat. Almost any bird will approach you if you sit calmly and offer occasional food. Corn is a big hit BTW. Peanuts are much easier cause it's not like they go bad in your pocket. But if you're intentionally going out to be a bird friend you should definitely bring a bag of corn. Birds go crazy for that shit. Definitely don't bring bread. Most importantly, it is bad for birds, but also they actually like other foods more. Except lettuce. No bird has ever accepted lettuce offerings. They peck at it then move on. Lettuce is a joke to them apparently. Consistency is good too. I always say hi bird when I see a bird, then throw down a peanut, cause again the corn is just for targeted bird friend making journeys. Not all birds are smart enough, but there's some local birds that get it by now. They'll even fly along with me on my walk waiting for more food drops. You can't do this in Paris BTW. Apparently it is illegal to feed birds. So don't go to Paris. Who wants to 4-hour lines and you can't even make friends with birds? Oh yeah, back to the first point. Corvids understand the peanuts. They will hold the shelled peanut with one foot and then peck into shell to get the nut, and they understand what is up to. If you have a crow or whatever that seems to sorta be looking, you can toss that peanut down and they'll come grab it. I draw blood at a blood donation center. Half the reason it pisses me off is most of the shit they ask is stuff covered in the packet we make you read to make sure you're healthy. So not only should it be redundant to ask, but indicates your blood is potentially unsafe to the recipient, you stupid fuck. I know you donated 8 weeks ago, but unless you work in our company or for the FDA, then how would you know if rules have changed? It's been 2 months, man. Also, you insist you know my job and don't need to hear my lecturing, but still ask all these questions that are in the packet? Fuck you. And some of you I know are lying to get a free STD test, which aren't always perfect, so that's risky for everyone. But most are lying that they're old and their balls stopped working, so their doctor is juicing them with testosterone now and your blood got too thick. Trust me, we can tell. Just tell me your shots and then lie in the appropriate way your doctor told you to, you stupid fuck. And part of why I hate questions is again it shows you didn't read. But it's always about suspicious shit. Common example, white tattoos, but no one ever adds cause I was thinking of getting one. Phrase 1. Suspicious. Phrase 2. Understandable. Think about how you talk. But no one does and it comes off very suspicious. And again does you didn't read. You guys think I'm being petty, but it's almost everyone every day. I like my job if the people can avoid being turds. Then I have to make 6-8 minutes of small talk while you donate to keep you distracted so you don't black out. And I rarely get questions about me, which is understandable. But come on, throw me a bone, and try to actually ask, that is. Don't just say you going to college, follow up with where, why that, enjoy it, how much longer, anything. People make horrible conversation. You want to converse? Just politely extrapolate more info from them. You'll find what they like. The poop from farm animals and what plants the manure is best for. I grew up on a farm. If I pass a field that's been spread with manure, I can't tell from the smell what animal it came from. BTW, chicken manure smells the worst. Lord of the Rings. I know more about Middle-earth's history than my own country's history. Yes. I was that weird 13-year-old that read through the Silmarillion on my first try. I was so excited. More than 15 years later and I absolutely adore the legendarian still. I work in a coroner's office. I could go into crazy death stories. It's pretty fascinating and people die in the weirdest ways. There are a few cases that stick out to me. First one. This person was hanging something up in their home. Was standing on a chair, holding whatever they were going to hang in their hand, and thumbtack between their lips, as a lot of people do. They lose their balance, fall off the chair, and inhale the thumbtack. It ends up puncturing their lung. The doctors can't remove it and so they die. It's so crazy because so many people do that. But a thumbtack literally killed this person. Next one. This woman and her husband, older couple, were going to go run some errands. The wife decides she wants to stay home and take a nap. Husband is out for a couple hours and comes home. The wife has locked herself in the bathroom and isn't responding. He calls the fire department so they can break down the door. Fire department shows up, breaks down the door, and find his wife unresponsive. She was lying on the ground, nude, with a wooden plunger stuck up her. There was a jar of Vaseline on the counter. She ended up having an aneurysm or something if I remember correctly, but we all remember the plunger. Third, there were a couple people walking on the sidewalk one night along a relatively busy street. A drunk driver comes, speeding, and swerves into them. Sends them flying. One of them got it the worst where they were cut in half along their torso, and then their leg was cut off at the knee. Meanwhile, there was a woman driving home with her kids in the back seat. It was a nice night, so the windows were rolled down. The person whose leg was cut off, well, their leg ends up flying right into the mom's car window. It hits mom in the head, which causes her to black out and crash her car. She ended up being hospitalized for a while I think, but the kids were okay. The way the leg flew and the exact angle of all of it hitting the mom's head, it's ridiculous. Everyone thinks I'm making this one up. Your third story reminded me when I was a kid I was at a friend's house playing video games. Some cops came to the door and immediately accused us of committing a heinous crime but won't say what. We were completely perplexed until they explained some kids matching our description were throwing poop, human or dog not sure, at cars. Apparently one of the car's window was rolled down and hit a kid eating an ice cream cone. No one died though. Fragrances. Did you know one of the most expensive natural substances is a fragrance ingredient and costs between $30,000 and $40,000 a liter? It's harvested from trees that have a certain fungal infection. The thing is when people try to establish farms and inoculate trees themselves, the aroma isn't the same and is judged in blind studies as lower quality. Gender for fragrance is mostly a 20th century construct. However, when people sniff certain women's fragrances from the 1930s and compare them to men's fragrances from the current era, they label the genders backwards. Certain fragrances for women smell more masculine than today's scents, and vice versa. The concept of a clean, fresh fragrance is wildly different in the US, France, Dubai and Japan. Smells in fragrances are called notes. Some occur naturally, others are man-made. Leather smells are man-made. Whale vomit uses to act as a fixative and change the aroma of fragrances. What is clean fresh scent in the various places? Which scents have gender swapped? As the world homogenizes they are blending sadly. But the traditional breakdown was English gentlemen's scents were rose and barbershop powdery. Italian were bright citrus and herbs like the Mediterranean coast. French classic were lavender, tonka, and some musk. Middle Eastern scents were incense, strong florals and woods. America has an ungodly paranoia about natural smells and favors laundry shower clean soap scents and aquatics. Heavy fragrances were considered rude and cultured in Japan, but that's changed as Western values expanded. As far as genders go, Bandit by Fracas was a woman's scent that hits butch as hell. Huge leather note. Compare that to a modern men's scent like Dior Homme with his mostly iris and smells like powder and lipstick, and people will think Bandit is a man's scent. Why I have come to dislike the Harry Potter books. Without going into it too much, the two biggest ones are: 1. I think the magic system is terrible and causes issues with the plot. 2. Harry rarely succeeds on his own merits, and is Deus Ex Machina read too often. Also, the book series is a shameless ripoff. Rowling pretty much ripped off a book that was published when she was 9, The Worst Witch by Jill Murphy. The amount of similarities is enormous. It goes down to hair and clothes color of the strict potions teacher who seemingly hates, but not really, as we later find out, the main protagonist, with 2 best friends and a pet. The blonde student, the personal enemy, after being refused on day 1 of the protagonist has a father, who is the head of the board of governors. There is an incident with enchanted broom that endangers life of the protagonist. I can write pages and pages describing details that are the same on TWW and HP. Yes, Jill Murphy complained about people attacking her for ripping off Rowling. She said she hates to explain again and again she wrote the books decades ago. She refuses to comment on HP. Minecraft. Can confirm. Have a 7-year-old and she goes on for what seems like hours about it. I could be on calls for hours with my friends talking about Minecraft. No joke.